Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see you all here. Krishan, shall we begin the session? Okay, cool. So, hi guys. Good evening. So, so today we're going to finish off the animations for our Flutter app. So, where did we left off? So, I think so. We left out here, where we have made the actives cards expand when they are in the active view or where they are in the center of the viewport. We expand and animate them. So now let's just style these a bit because these square edges, they don't give off that pleasant effect. Let's make them a bit rounded. But first, let's just try and make this UI a bit more immersive. Let's just make this Atmos look a little bit full scale. Like let's make this simulate full screen. So in order to do that, I think so we first have to remove the app bar from the top and then the text here. So and let's just change the background to more of a white color because I think so here it's a little bit yellow. Let me just I think it's a little bit yellow. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to go to our main dart. As I think so if you remember in our previous lessons, main.dart is the entry point or app. This is where everything starts. This is our starting point. So here we can see that we have a container with color yellow. And then let's change this to maybe change this to color white. So let's add white here. So colors dot white. Cool. So we just save that now. Now it's white. Now let's just remove the app bar and text here. So in order to move the app bar, just delete this part here, which is your app bar. Okay, cool. Now it's a little bit, yeah, it's looking almost good. Okay, let's just remove the text. So we have a text here, which is expanded. This is a column. So I don't need a column anymore. So what I could do is, instead of removing individually all of these one by one, what I can do is I can just click on, because the column is the parent. And as you can see, it's the children is your expanded, your text and your expanded, and inside expanded is your list of tourist spots. So these are actually your images right here. So in order to remove the parent, we can click on the top here and click on this icon and then just click on remove. Okay, extract method. There's no remove. Oh, there's no remove method for the column here. Okay, let me just do that manually. Actually, okay, let me just remove that column here. So this column starts here and ends here, right? Okay, let me just copy here the list of tour spots. So let's just cut that and we'll remove the column. And now let's just paste our child here. Okay, now it's full screen. As you can see, the taskbar, I think so the taskbar or the status bar is still there. If I click here, okay, if I click here, it's not registering the. Let me just re-render again the UI. It's not registering the clicks. I guess I need to re-render UI a bit. Okay. Okay, what is the problem here? It's not registering the gestures. Okay. So I guess here we've lost our we've lost our untap function here itself in the animated container. Oh, okay, we didn't add the untap listener here. Okay, let's do that. Let's go back to our task tourist spot start and let's add our untap functionality. I guess we removed that when we were styling our card. I must have forgotten that part out. Okay. So now in order to do that, what do we need to do is we need to wrap our animate container inside a gesture listener. So gesture listener is a widget where you can listen to clicks. You can add anything, not just a container, you can add it to images, you can add to text, and you can even add columns or or even to stacks or columns or rows. So let's just add our gesture listener to our animate container. So in order to do that, let's just wrap it with a widget. And we'll have a gesture listener here, gesture detector, that's what it's called. And let's have an untap function. If you look here, it has double tap, untap, cancel. It even listens to drag. It even listens to unpressed gestures. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with gesture detector. For us, we just want a normal tap. So just a single tap here. So it takes a function That's great function. And inside this function, what you need to do is, I think we've covered this, is we need to navigate it to the next page. So let's do that again. Let's bring our untap function back to life. So I'm just copy that here. Self. It might just give me a few seconds, just checking my notes again. Get all of this correct. Okay, what's the untap function? Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to use a navigator.push. Navigator dot push. So why is it called push here? It's called push because you're gonna add another layer on top of this layer here. So this, just remember that this page here, this first page is the first layer, and if I navigate to tourist spot details, it's adding another layer on top of tourist spots. Right, so essentially when you go back, what essentially doing is you're just removing this layer here and then going back to the bottom layer, removing top layer and going back to the bottom layer. So that's why it's called push. So let's just push here. What we need to do is we need to pass in our context and then our material page route. And we have the builder. Builder takes a context. It's a function actually, which takes in context as a parameter. And now we can navigate to our spot details and our tourist spot object. So we pass that here again inside our tourist spot object. Okay, and it's complaining that it needs to end with a semicolon. Okay, and undefined tourist spot object. Why is it undefined here? Tourist spot. Okay, tourist object actually. Oh, sorry, it's this object here which you want to pass. So copy paste into the spot details constructor. So now let's just rerun our app, see that our navigation is working fine. Okay, let me click on something. Yeah, now it's navigating. So as I said before, right, it's just adding another top layer. So if I go back here, you can see that it's just removing the top layer and going back to the bottom layer, which is your tourist spots list. Yeah, so that's how the navigator push works. So there we have it. Now let's just style our card here. So as you can see, this is getting a little bit crowded here. You can see that the UI is getting a little bit tough to read. So what we can do is we can just extract our animated container into a separate widget or a separate function for that matter. So let me just try and let me extract this into widget. So if you want to do that, you can just right click there and then extract widget. And let's just give the name of maybe this one will be a spot, an animated tourist spot card, maybe. Yeah, just more like a card. As you can see now, it has extracted the entire code and placed into its own widget. So yeah, so it still works the same way. If I re-render this, yeah, you can see that's still working fine. If I click, still works fine, right? So why do we need to extract our code? Is because, yeah, I mentioned before, it's getting dirty and it's getting a little bit hard to see what's going on, to know what each section of the code is doing. So we just extract them to its own separate widget here. So now this widget can be placed into its own separate class or file if we need to reuse this in other places of our app. So when do we need to extract to a status widget? For example, like headers, right? So those headers, maybe if you're building a website using Flutter, so that header needs to be shared in multiple pages, right? Maybe from home, you navigate to maybe your cart and there's the header. So you need to extract that into a separate file so that you can reuse that component or widget. Another example is for footers. Another example is for maybe certain input forms where you need to use the same form in multiple pages. So you extract that into its own separate file. So what we're doing here, basically, we can put this into its own file, but because we're not going to reuse this, we're only going to use this inside the tourist spot page. So let's just leave it here itself. Yeah, just leave it here. So now it becomes much easier. Now we have this, and let's just modify this part here. Now let's style only this section of our code here. So as I said before, let's just add a little bit of rounded corners here to the image. What we can do two ways. Okay, first way, the first option is let's you do using the decoration attribute inside the container itself. Because animate container is still a container in essence, we can use the decoration attribute and we have a box decoration. And inside box decoration, we have our border radius. So border radius, it takes border radius and we can give it all and maybe 20. Oh, sorry. Border, not all, I mean, sorry, circular, sorry. Border radius dot circular and maybe 20. Okay, let me just refresh here. Oh, sorry, it's not taking the box decoration. Sorry. Oh, yeah. That's not going to work because, yeah, because box decoration is going to decorate only the container, but this is an image, right? So it's not going to decorate the image only if it's container. For example, let me just show you. This is a stack, right? So I'll just remove the stack here. I'll just remove this entire thing here. Just stack. So we'll just have one container. And maybe this container, I'll give it the color of red. Colors dot maybe red. As you can see, it's only adding the rounded corners to the container itself and not to the image. So that's a problem. So what we can do is we can use another widget instead of using the box decoration for container. We can use a clip rrec widget. How do we do that? We just wrap our animate container. Just click that again. Click here and let's wrap inside widget and we call it the clip rrec. Now, same thing. We have the border radius. So border radius dot circular and then we give it 20. Okay, let me just refresh here. Let me just re-render the code again. Okay, here. Oh, wait a minute. It's still not adding to the container. Oh, I need to add it. Sorry, I need to add it to our stack itself. Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's a container. It won't do much. Okay, let me just remove that widget and add it to our stack. So wrap with a widget, clip, and rrec and border radius. Border radius, dot circular and 20. Yeah, now you can see that it's adding these very subtle curves, these subtle rounded corners. Let's make them more pronounced. Let's maybe add 40, just double. Okay, so yeah, 40 looks better. Yeah, 40 looks really good. Cool. Now the next step is we need to add text to our images. Right, so in order to do that, because this is a stack, now this is an image behind it, we need to add a text on top of it. So let's just add an image, or let's add text at the bottom here. So we just call this, let's just give an example of text, maybe location for the matter. Okay, let's see if it renders or not the text. Yeah, you can see it's rendering in the top right corner here. So just remember in stack, how it works is this is your bottom layer and this is your top layer. Okay, it renders anything on top. It renders this element here in the beginning first. This is the first layer and this is the second layer. So bottom, top, and keep stacking on top as the more widgets you add. So now we need to align this text to the bottom of this image, of this stack. Right, so in order to do that, what we can use is we can use the align widget here. So just wrap again inside a widget, we call it align. So the good thing about Flutter is everything is a widget, right? So you can wrap another widget with another widget and it will try to implement its functionality into the child widget. So you can have like an image here, you can have a text, you can have a column, you can have a row, anything which you want. But first we're just having text, so let's just do that. So now align needs another attribute, which is the alignment attribute. And now here it's just alignment center because I want to place at the bottom. Now if you look closely, I think so it's rendering, but because it's dark, yeah, I think so this needs to render container. No, alignment, use alignment bottom center. Okay, let's just change this text style to maybe white so that we can get a clearer picture of where it has gone because it seems to have completely disappeared from our UI. Maybe it's a text color. We just render that again. Reload already in progress. Okay, I think so. Yeah. I, oh yeah, see in the bottom. If you look closely, you can see that it is rendered at the bottom, but so small, and the text color is black, so it's not easily visible. So let's just give it style here. So style, so text style, and let's just increase the font size a bit. Size, font size. Maybe we'll make it around. I don't know, maybe around 20, I guess. And then let's color. Let's have it as white. Colors. Okay, see here. Okay, so there's a bit of problem in my emulator where I have to keep on rendering, but actually there should be a hot preload function. Oh yeah, now we can see. Now we have location here at the bottom itself. Okay, cool. Now this still doesn't look that pleasing. Let's align it to the left side of the image. So we'll have the location. We'll have the name of the location here in the left corner. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to align our column. Yeah, I think so. No alignment. Let's just see if it can we get left bottom center bottom left. Okay, bottom left. Yeah, now we have bottom left, but it's attached so close to the image that, and also it's near the bottom here to the curve corner, so so there's a little bit of it has been clipped. Let's just add some padding here so it aligns closely. There's some breathing room. Let's maybe add padding here. Let's just add another widget called padding widget, and then padding. And then we add our padding attribute. So padding page edge insets. Then let's just give all maybe around 20. Okay, see if it works or not. Location 20. Let me just use cons. I think so it's complaining heavily. I should use cons. Okay, now there's a little bit of breathing room to it. The text is clearly visible. Okay, let's just add cons because it's getting, the warning signs are getting awesome. Okay, so now we have alignment, padding to give a little bit more space to our text, and our text chart here. So 20, okay, 20 looks okay, but maybe let's move it a little bit upward so we can add more padding to the bottom here, which will shift the text a little bit here on top. Okay, for that we need to use, let's just give maybe only, only, so we can define left, right. So for left, let's have 20, and for the bottom, let's maybe have around 50. The argument of name parameter, which I was already specified. Try removing the arguments. Where's that? Here, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's too big. Maybe around 40, and maybe this will be around 30. Give it a bit more space. Yeah. 40. Yeah, 40 looks good. Okay, let's just increase the size of the text a little bit more. Maybe from around 20 to around 30. Much, maybe 25. I think 25 is just right. Okay. Now, if you take a look at this, some of the images which are light color, you can see that the text color almost blend into the image itself, whereby it becomes quite hard to notice the name of the image, the name of the place, right? So what if this is like almost a pure white image, then the text gets hidden. So what we need to do is, let's just add a dark area here underneath, so that the location text pops up a little bit. So even if there's a light image underneath, because there's a dark background, and the location name can stand out a bit. So in order to do that, I think so we need to wrap our text. Actually, we need to wrap our text inside a container. Hmm. Now it becomes okay. Let's just do that. Let's just wrap our text inside a container. It's going to get a little bit chaotic again. More code. Let's just extract this. Let's just extract our text here into its own uh, function actually, but it's not able to achieve that. I don't know why. Let me just check again here. Why it's not able to extract a method? But because I gave it a sequence and then extract. So here we have the extract method here. Right, so let's just give this as maybe render text. That'll be the name of our function. So as you can see here, we have our function called render text here, which this is calling. So I know it's heavily nested. Okay, let's go back to the top. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are rendering our animator's pod card here, which is calling this widget itself. And now this widget, what it's doing is just rendering an animated container with the image as the background and also the text here, which is extracted into a function. So when do you extract widgets into, when do you extract your part of your code into either widgets or a function? So as I mentioned before, we extract them into widgets when we need to reuse them in other parts of our code. Okay, so because this widget here, this animated tourist spot card can also be a function because we only need to use this inside our tourist spot page. So we don't need to render them. We don't need to put this in another file, right? So we can have that, we can render this as a function, but I'm just showing as an example of rendering this as a widget, and we have this as a function. So this function, what does it do? A function needs to have a return type. Let's just move that and have widget, because if it's aligned, then it needs to return only aligned. And if I maybe wrap this inside a container, it'll throw an error because why? I'm not returning an align, I'm returning container. So in order to do that, to make it generic, we let's replace that with widget, because in Flutter everything's a widget, right? So widget. So even if I put container here, it'll still be happy because it's still returning a widget. Now, okay, let's go back. So we need to render that dark background here. So let's just wrap this inside a container. Wrap this inside a container. And the container, what we need to do is we need to add color to the container. So let's just add color dot, colors dot black. Colors dot black. Okay. This will cover the entire image itself. So we don't want that. So let's set a height for the container. Maybe it'll be this part here. This part here. Yeah. But in order to do that, I first need to rearrange. Sorry, I need to rearrange the container, because if I do height like this, 20, right? It's why is it not picking height 20 now? Because why? So you can see I've given height 20. It should be smaller, right? The black color should be small. It should be at least this size or this size. But because we're placing it inside our stack here, because our stack parent has expand. Remember from our previous lesson, if we do fit stack fit expand, it takes the entire size of the parent itself. So the container, even though it has 20, but because we've written stack fit, it takes the entire size of the parent here itself. So now what we need to do is we can move this container inside our align, inside our align widget. So what it does is the align widget will constrain it to take the size of its child, or whatever size you've given here. So let's just do that. Let's just remove this container here. Let's just remove this widget. We can also swap it. We can also swap the container if you want, like swap with child here. So now you can see that align has become the parent and construct, and our container has become the child. So that's a very good function which the Flutter VS Code plugin provides. So now let's just provide grunts here again, because we're putting hard values. And now here, inner black, and then we have our child text. Okay, but as you can see here, it's aligning to the bottom left. So let's just align that again to the bottom right. Bottom center, I mean, bottom center. Okay, so this is the bottom center here, so 20. So just increase it a bit, maybe make it around, because it's 20, see, it has a height of 20. So let's make it around, I know, maybe 100. Let's see, 100 will work. Yeah, 100. Okay, cool. Now we have the location here. And now, because it has height 20, as you can see, as I said before, if I place the container inside the align, the container takes the size of the child itself. So even though the height is hard coded here as 100, but the width is wrapped around the child. So now we need to make the height take the parent containers width. So in order to do that, we'll just give infinity with that double but infinity. So now it takes the width of the parent, and now location here, it's situated here. So in order, now the next step is we need to place this location at least almost center of the container here. We can just add another attribute to the parent here. Maybe we'll give it the same thing as bottom, which is okay. Just give 30. Okay, 30 is too much. Let's maybe make 20. Okay, cool. Now it's 20. Right. So now this is too dark. If you look at it, this background area is too dark. So let's just give a little bit of opacity to it. Maybe I know, opacity of. So with alpha, sorry, you can give black dot with alpha. And alpha, it takes a value from 0 to 25. So 0, it's like almost it's invisible, and 225 is total opacity. Like you can, it's like opaque for matter. So let's just give maybe around 100 in between. So 100. Let me just read it here. Now it's a little bit lighter. Good. Yeah, now it's a little bit lighter. Okay. Okay. So now I can easily make out. So even if the text, even if the image in the background is pure white color, it won't make the location name blend in with the background color. So now we need to make this location dynamic. We need to take the actual location name, right? So what we do is, because we already have the tourist spot object here, which is passed from this parent. So it's passed from here. If you look at it, and the animated tourist spot card, it passes a tourist spot object, right? So this is a tourist spot object. We have the value here. So now what we can do is we can either pass the tourist spot object, or we pass only the name here. So because it's a function, we don't need to pass the entire object, right? So just create a name here called location name, which is a string. Now we just use the tourist spot object. Now we paste this location name into our text. Yeah. So now I cannot use the constant element, the constant keyword anymore here, because why? This is dynamic now. It's not hard coded anymore. And as you know, if you're using a variable, it can change at any time. The value can change at any time, so it's not constant. So remove that. The only constant things are, I guess, these edge insets for the padding, where we have hard coded values, and also the text type. We can give that as const. Okay, now we can see that's rendering sweet falls, mouse might give, Lightroom Canyon, and sweet falls. Okay, I think so. Yeah, we've completed the first phase. Any questions so far regarding this before we move on to the next page? So if you have understood, can you get a thumbs up maybe? Okay, cool. Okay, now let's move on to the next page then. So we'll be styling the page, this part here. Okay, so now in order to do that, let's go to the second page, which is our spot details package here, spot details dot file. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on around here. So let me just maybe start from scratch. Let's just remove this entire thing. We'll code from scratch. So the first thing we need to do is we need to return a scaffold. Okay, so why do we need to return a scaffold? Why not just simply directly a container or an image or a stack or column? It's because we have moved to a new page. Okay, and so because this is a fresh new page, it needs a scaffold. And what's the importance of scaffold? Scaffold essentially contains your theme, contains how your app renders. It also contains functionality. We can add your app bar, your floating action button, and all that. So let me just give you an example. If we don't use scaffold, okay, we just put directly container, and I add here maybe container and child as just have a text, and let's just say hello. Okay, maybe, and then we'll have text style, and let's just increase the font size a bit. Style, font size, maybe you'll have this as 50. Right, so as you can see, we've rendered what it's rendering in this format, where there's no styling, there's no nothing. Okay, so it just gives you the raw rendering. It gives you raw implementation of your widgets without any themes or any styling. And even if you look at the background color, it's plain black, right? So that's why we need to, if we now look at the difference if we wrap inside our scaffold. So scaffold, and then here doesn't take a child, it takes a body actually. Now I can see, right? So now you can see that the fonts have taken if you're using a certain theme for your fonts, it will take that theme and even your background color as well. So that's the importance of using a scaffold. So now we have a scaffold. Right now, let's pass. We have because we've already passed our tourist object from the last page. Now we have access to this tourist spot object. Let's just maybe print out its name actually. Object dot name. Okay, just see the sweet falls here. Because we click on sweet falls, you have sweet falls here. Now let's just render the image first. Let's render a full size image. So it takes the entire screen's viewport. So in order to do that, what we need to do is let's go to spot details here, and let's just build the background image itself. So background image, maybe, okay, let's just think about it here. So here, what we're going to do, let's just plan out first. We're going to have a background image here, and then we're going to have some text here, which will render the description. So that'll be on top of the background image, and a few buttons here where we can toggle the information on and off. Okay, we can, if when we press the button, we can make the card which houses the description hidden or visible. So in order to do that, we will need a stack, right? Because we need to stack the information on top of each other. So let's just create a stack here. So do we need a container? No, we don't need, I think so, container. Let's just remove this. Okay, let's just do it the hard way. So container, and we need a stack. So again, a stack. And we have our stack and we have our children. Okay. Now we need to first render our image. So we need to make it full screen. Image dot, again from assets, because we're taking the image from asset. So we have our spot detail. So we can just give tourist spot object dot image source. Okay, let's render this out. I think so. I need to do a hard restart for this. Let me click again on Lightroom Canyon. Okay, yeah. So yeah, as you can see, we have the image, but it's not full screen, right? That's because we need to go back and add a fit value to the fit attribute of the stack. Sorry, the stack here. So again, let's go fit and stack fit. Expand. Now this will take the, so this image will take the size of the parent, which is your scaffold. So scaffold takes the entire size of your phone viewport, and our image will now take on the same size. So let's do render again. I don't know why it's not hard reloading. Some problem with my emulator. Actually should hard reload. Okay, okay. Another problem here, right? So why is it not taking? Why is it not taking the full screen even though we're given stack fit expand? It's because we've not given another attribute which is fit for the image. Box fit and then dot cover. Please tell it to cover the entire stack with an idea. So let's click it again. Yeah. So you can see it has this nice effect. If you get access to the code, you can write itself. If I click here, it almost zooms out and takes on the entire screen. So it looks like it's consuming the entire screen. It looks like it's flying towards you. It looks like as if it's flying towards you. So cool, that's a good effect. So we have the image asset here. Now we need to render our info container. So in order to do that, let's just render first a container here. Simple container. And inside the container, we'll have maybe our text. So our text needs to have, what our text we're going to have? First, we're going to render the name of the location, and just below it, we're going to render description. So we need a column for that, right? For the first is the name, second is the description. So let's do child, and I have a column, column, and then here we have children. So first off, we'll just write here text, which is your, again, location, name, and another text here, which is your location. Maybe just write description, actually. Description, container. Now, where's it? Where's that container hidden? Let's just re-render it again. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's on the top. So it's rendered in the top here. Okay, now let's render them in the center of the screen actually. We need to render this container in the center of the screen. So what we can do is we can have we can use a center widget here itself. So let's just wrap it with a center widget. Okay, why do we need to render it again? Just see. Okay, no, it doesn't work. The center widget will not work here because you use stack fit here. So in order to make this center, what we need to do is let's just okay, a container and then column image sets as stack fit. Here we have alignment and stack alignment. I guess what does it take? Takes alignment directional top start. Oh, because it's top start. Okay, let's try and make it even directional. Directional dot center, actually center. Still nothing, right? Okay. Okay. Okay, let's just go back here. Let's just remove everything else. Let's just remove the center. Let's just make the container first because in the end we're not even going to use those widgets because we're going to use an animated position widget and we can manually place the container in the center of the screen. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we wouldn't need them because we're going to animate that. So now let's just design the container first. Let's just give it a color and size and dimension. So color, we're going to use so our color we're going to use maybe description container. Okay, description container, and we have our box radius here with okay. So for the container width, let's just use maybe 100 by 100 for the width. So maybe not 100 will be too small. Let's do around maybe 300 for the width, and maybe height. It's around 400. Okay. Good. So let's give it a color. Maybe color that white. Okay. So that's taking the entire, yeah, again, why is it taking the entire U? Because we're using start fake span. So container takes the entire size of the takes the entire size of the stack, which stack in hand takes the entire size of the scaffold. So yeah, don't worry, we'll adjust that. So let's just make the text first a little bit more legible. So text style again. This will have a font size. That's maybe 20. Okay. So okay, you can see here it's increasing a bit. Now description. Let's do the same thing. Let's just copy the style attribute here. Style. Okay. Let me just re-render the app again. Okay, let's just use here itself sweet false again. Sweet false, yeah. So description and location name now clearly visible. Okay, so now let's just clip this again. Let's make this let's just contain it here itself. So what we can do is we can either use align or center. Let me just use center again. If we center, it will, yeah. Now if we center, it will center this in the scaffold. And it also adds constraint. Now if you use center again, it tells the container to take the size of your child or take the size of the predefined values which you've given to the container. Okay, you can use align or center for that matter to make it have like a constraint height and width to take the size of the child. So location, name, description. Okay, now let's just round these corners a bit. Okay, let's just use the clip rec again, which we used earlier. So wrap with a widget. So clip rec. Okay. So this one have the radius and border radius. Circle, and this may be around 20. 20 now. 20 looks good, maybe around 30. Yeah, 30 looks better. Okay. Okay, sure. Now, yeah, so we can see here our build widget is getting a little bit chaotic again. Let's just move this part here to another function. Extract that to a, or I can extract this to a extract that to a method. Why can I use it center here? Extract that to a method. So let's just call this maybe again render info container, I guess. Give that container. So render your info container. Now it's in this function here. So now, yeah, now you can easily see that first it renders your image and then renders your info container. It becomes a little bit cleaner. So now let's just use the cons here, which will get rid of your links. So another trailing comma here. So if you use trailing comma, you can see that I kind of like this format. It depends on you. It depends on your preferences. Some might like this in a single line, but I kind of prefer it like multiple lines. So I'll use another trailing comma. Yeah. So now you have two text widgets here. Now for the text widgets, we might want to add some padding here because they are so closely attached to the top. It looks so suffocating. So let's add a padding. Same thing we did earlier. So padding, here we go. And now we add our attribute padding and edge inserts. And let's just give all for this one. I don't think so. I want to tweak it. Just give 30. Okay, 30, yeah. So 30 here, the name, and just a little bit of breathing space. So if I do all again, this padding all around. So from top, right, bottom, and left, that's 20. So just give us cons because we're using hard-coded value. Padding. Okay, we'll just give padding directly then. We'll change it. So cons column, unnecessary cons anymore because I've given a cons here. So I need to use cons and column anymore. Now description, let's make it a bit smaller. Oh, okay, location name, let's make it a little bit bigger. And description, we'll just leave it as 20, I guess. Yeah, okay. So location name is a little bit bigger, description here. Okay, let's just add some spacing here for description because if it's longer, if the description name is longer, then it becomes quite difficult to tell which is the name and which is description. So just add a little bit of space here. So for that we can use, I like to use a size box here, and let's just give the height maybe around 20. Yeah, okay, there's a little bit of space here now. Okay, so you have description. Okay, so okay, cool. That's looking pretty good. Now, as I said before, we're going to create like pseudo glass effect, right? Like this is going to look like it's a glass which is hovering on top of the image. So in order to do that, we first need to lessen the alpha of the color a bit. So with alpha again, maybe around 100. Yeah, 100, okay? Okay, cool. Looks good. Now, let's just add that. And now in order for it to look somewhat of a glass effect, let's add a blur effect to it. Like so that it's more of like looking one of those church glass paintings, I guess. When the church you might have in chapel, you might have those called glass windows. And if you look out the back, if you look out at the environment, it looks a little bit skewed, a little bit blurred. So let's give that effect. So in order to make this blur, we need to use another widget called the backdrop filter widget. So for that, let's just add it to the container itself. Okay, so let's just add it here. This is called the backdrop filter. So what the backdrop filter takes is it takes a filter, and now we have the image filter, class dot blur, and we can use sigma x. So this is how much blurriness you want to add to the x-axis. So we just give it maybe around 2 for now. Let's just see. It takes a double, so 2 double, and then sigma y. So this is in the y-axis. So let's just make them consistent. I want them to be blurred consistently, both in the x and y axis. So let's just do that. Okay, as you can see, it's a little bit blurred, but I don't think so you'll be able to make out. So let me just lessen the color a bit. Let's give it at 0 for now, the color. You can see this portion here, it's a little bit blurred. Oh, but the image is already blurred, right? Okay, let me just go back here and use a different image. Maybe this one's better. Yeah. Okay, now let's just increase this maybe to 12. I think so 12. You can see is substantial. Yeah, in fact, yeah, you can see now, right? It's blurring. So 12, you can see that this portion here is heavily blurred. Now let's just add a little bit of color to the backdrop again. Maybe instead of 100, let's maybe give it a 60. Let's see. We need to re-render this again. 60. Go back here. Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, I think so. I kind of like 60. Yeah. So yeah, this looks pretty nice. It looks as if there's like a glass element of the image. So again, now this is done, but I think so. The text fonts, right? The black. Let's just make them white. Let's see how they look. White colors. Okay, long time to reload. Okay, colors white. Okay, location dot name. Colors white. Okay, let's give the description as well. Okay, just leave it black. I think so. Black looks pretty okay. Black looks pretty okay. And then maybe let's just make the location name bold. I guess needs to stand out. The name needs to stand out. So you can use fun weight for that. Weight. So we'll make it fun weight bold. Okay, location name. Okay, good. Okay, I think so that's looking a little bit better. Now let's just plug in the actual names here. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we already have access to door spot object, right? So let's do that. Let's plug in our name, invalid constant value. Yeah, because this is variable again, we cannot use constant anymore. So let's just remove this constant. Let's just give it only to h and sets, and maybe do name, and then here size box also we can give it as const. Text style const again hard coded values, no worries. So here we need to add our description. Object dot description. Now okay, now we have the card here. So Long Canyon, a small yet breathtaking canyon Meghalaya. Let's see for the others how it looks. So for Mouse My Cave, ooh, cool. Okay, we have the description and name there, Sweet Falls. Yeah, nice. Okay, so now what if I want to toggle this on off? Maybe I would like to have a better view of the background image. So maybe I want to hide this. So let's just add a button where we can toggle this from left to right. So I want to make it animate from left to right. So in order to do that, we need to use an animated position widget. Right, so for an animated position widget, we can get rid of the center here. We won't need it anymore because if we're going to do that, then we're gonna just show you here a center. See, as I mentioned before, right? So this is a function here. It's returning center, but because we have removed center, it's returning a clip break. So it throws an error. So in order to rectify that, we just give it as widget again. Now, if I rerun this code here, you can see that the container, I think so, will move up. Yeah. The container now the container has taken again the size of the entire stack because there's no center or alignment added. So there's no constraints. There's no one telling it to, hey, you take the size of your children. So there's no parental guidance anymore here from the top. So in order to do that, let's just add an animated position widget. Just check again here the nodes. Alignment here again. So click break, image, and then spot details. Build info container. Yeah, build info container, description container, child. Okay, so let's just add an animated position widget here. Wrap it with a widget. Animated. Maybe let's just have this as maybe top. No, I have it from the top. Sorry, animated widget, animated position actually. Position. Duration again. So anything which is animated requires a duration attribute. So because it needs to animate from your start to end values, right? So this is the same thing here. So it needs duration and it needs milliseconds. And maybe we'll just give it as 500 milliseconds again. Yeah. As is hard coded again, we can give as const. Okay. Now you can see that it's taking. Now it has gotten the constraints from the parent again. Because why? The animated position widget works almost like your alignment or your center widget. In the sense that if you put here top 20, you can see that's aligning this widget to the top here, but only 20 pixels of spacing. So if I give this bottom and I give this maybe 100, You can see that it's placed here at the bottom, but there's an additional space of 100 pixels. Similarly, if I put here, maybe if I write here right, IGHT, and then I give it as maybe 100, I'm going to give it 50. You can see that it's placed here. Okay, let me just write right here as maybe 0. Yeah. See, it's positioned here, 0, because I put right. If you put left and right, I think so it will cause a conflict. If you put it 0, 0, what will happen? Or it expands. It actually expands the container if you put right and left as 0, 0, because it doesn't know what to do. Should it place it to the left or should it place it to the right? So I guess it takes its own logic and just expands the entire container to touch both the left and right here. So let's just place it, maybe, let's just put it at left. Okay, let's just put left because we want our container to animate from left to right. Right, so from this left here, it will go to the right position. And now I want to place this container in the center of our screen. So in order to do that, I think so we need to write some logic here for our container. We can use the media query for that. So okay, let's think of the logic. Okay, in order to place this container here in the center of our screen, we need to first find out the width and height of our screen. Right? What is the width value? What is the height value? And then what we need to do is we need to take the container width here, which is around 100. Which is around 300, and then we need to deduct it from the height here. So for example, let's take a look at here. Okay, this maybe is around, for example, 600, but the width of the container is around 300. Now what is the difference in value here? What is this difference in value? That's around 300 pixels, right? So 600 minus 300, okay, that'll be 50%. Okay, let's make it 400, I guess. So 600, let's make this 500 minus 300. So 500 and then 300, and this space left here is 200 pixels, right? So now this 200 pixels, what we need to do is we need to divide it in half again, and then we need to place our container here in this portion here, so that it aligns perfectly in the center of our screen. Okay, let me just show you some code. I hope that makes sense. So because I have a widget, let's just increase our our container width. Maybe we'll make it around 400, I guess. Let's just see how it look. 400. 400, I guess that's that bit too much. Let's make it 350. 350. Let's just leave it 300. I guess I feel like that's a good that's a good size. Okay, 300. And now we need to first get the width of the phone's viewport. Now how do you do that? We use that. In order to do that, we need to use a media query. Right. So how do we get the values using media query? We can do is we can create a value here called const and then size. And we just call our media query class. Media query. Sorry, not like this, but of media query of context. And what size? Define context. Size, const value, final. Yes, okay, that's final. So final size, media query of context size. So this will return the width and height of our phone's viewport. Right. So now let's just place our container here itself. So now because we're using animate position, we need to calculate here, right? So let's do this calculation here. So size dot is this inside the no okay widget default here, which is here. So I won't be able to use a size here because why? This variable here is out of scope because it's inside this block of code here. If I try to access this outside, there's no variable here defined, right? So what I need to do is I can either define this function here itself or I need to pass it inside the render info container. So let's do that. Let's just pass the size inside the render info container here as a argument or parameter. So what is the class? As you can see, the type of size is size, right? So I can just write here maybe type is size. And I also just add an argument here called size. Now let's just pass that size here. And that's it. Now we have access to the size. So size dot let's just not do bottom actually. Sorry. Let's just do bottom. So again, bottom here, we'll leave it as maybe around again 300. But for the left side, that's because I need to place this container in the center regarding the width. So the size dot height. So you get access to height minus what do we have here? Our width is around 300. Okay, so for container 300. So 300, and then we need to divide it by 2. Now, okay, wait a minute. The width, height, size at height minus, oh, sorry, not height, I mean width. Width. And I can see it's perfectly spaced in the center. There's ample amount of space here in the center. Right, so I think so. One way, another good convention is dry principle, right? Do not repeat yourself. So we're using the same value here and here. So let's just extract that into a variable. So we'll call it maybe here as const or final. This will be int container width equal to 300. So int local variable. So now we'll use this container width here and here itself, and here. Now, argument int can be assigned to the parameter type. Oh, it requires a double. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Let's just move it to double then. Okay, let's just leave it for that to infer the type as double. So put it as here. So Dart is smart enough to realize that this is double. Okay, when we add a decimal point here, we can see that if I hover over container width, you can see that it's already smartly assigned as double. So that's called inferring of types. So you will just leave it at that. So yeah. So now it becomes easier for us. If you want to change the width of the container, we can just do it from one place, and the position and the width of the container itself is taken from that variable. So yeah, okay, so that's working perfectly. Now we have that in place. Now let's just add our buttons here itself, where we can toggle this either to the left or to the right. Okay, so in order to do that, in order to have a button which toggles info container, we need to convert our stateless widget into a stateful widget. Why is that? It's because we need to store a variable. We need, specifically, we need to store a boolean called is info box visible or something like that. So if it's true, you show it, but if it's false, then you hide it. So that needs to be retained in the state. Otherwise, if we call the variable like this, post boolean bool, sorry, is, so just give it as private again, is info visible equal false, right? For now, maybe it's false. So if you click on a button actually, and you want to make this true, because it'll reset the state, it will render this entire thing right from the start, and it will always assign as false. Because why? You're rendering this code right from the beginning, right? So it'll just assign it as false continuously. This value will never be true, even if you have the button click here and assign to true, it'll always be false, because it renders the entire thing from scratch. Now, but if you have a stateful widget, it will store this in a state. It'll remember that value. So if you toggle it as false, as true, even if you render the UI, that value inside this variable here is still retained. So let's do that. Let's convert this to a stateful widget. So let's just convert it here again. Right, click here, click on this light bulb icon, and convert to stateful widget. Cool. So now we have our stateful widget here. So now we have this bool here, which is false. Let's just add a button here itself. And now for the buttons, what we can do is we can render the buttons here. Okay, let's just render the buttons here itself first now. Let's just give a simple button, an icon button. Let's just give us a line. Okay, just write first icon button. Icon button. First, right? So this one, and just okay. Let's just create icon button first. Icon, maybe icons dot. Just here what I have here. I've container. Toggle visibility, animated position, build buttons. Okay. So icon button dot info dot outline. Okay. So icons dot info outline. If you want to have a preview of what the buttons will actually look like, what you can do is you can control space. You can click control space. You can see. You can preview how the icons will look like. So now I want this to be an info outline. Actually, I want to outline. So this one, rounded, sharp, no, outline. Okay, what's the difference? They all look the same. We outline and outlined. One's in the present, one's in the past. Okay, let's give it past. Outlined. Uh, Now expected to find that icons and here. No, wait. Icons and icons. Icon button. Oh, no, no. Sorry. I need to use an icon widget for that. Sorry. My bad. So I need to use icon. And then side icon, you have an attribute called icon. And then you can have, now you can assign the icons. Info dot outline. Line rounded. Okay. Same thingy, I guess. Icon and then icons. Oh, no, no. Icons, you don't need that anymore. Like icons, and what is here? And what's the train error about? Let's complain expected to find. Expected, oh, sorry, expected to find in comma here on the top. And now we've added the outline button. Where's that? Oh, here. Now we have this in the center. It looks almost like a belly button. So now we want to place this at the bottom of the screen, actually. We want to place it somewhere here. So let's do that. Let's first make this a little bit bigger. So now do that, just add the style or the size, actually. So maybe around 20. Let's start with 30. It's a little bit smaller. It's a bit smaller. Let's add 50 maybe. Yeah, 50 looks about okay. Okay, now the same thing. What we need to do is we need to align this, align this button here at the bottom. Okay, the button container. Okay. But I also want this button here to animate from the bottom. Okay, so essentially what I'm trying to do is if I click on this screen here, initially it'll just show the background image. Then slowly the button will move upwards from the bottom, and then this info box from the left side to the right. So it'll animate. Okay, let's do that. So let's just place this inside an animated position. Same thing, animate position. Animate position widget. Animate position widget again. Okay, duration. Needs a duration. So duration, and this one is in milliseconds, and this one will be 500. Okay. So I can, let's make it solid. Let's make the icon a little bit solid then. So this one I'll have as info. Okay, let's just leave it at that. It is solid color. Let's give it like maybe a white color. Color dot white. Color dot white. Okay, cool. With alpha, let's see. Can we make it? Can we also make this a little bit transparent? Oh yeah, we can. Yes. So 100. Okay, cool. That looks good. Maybe make it a little bit more darker. 50. Yeah, that's very subtle. Okay, so now let's just place it at the bottom. So this animate position, let's place it at the bottom. Let's put it as bottom here. Because we need to place it at the bottom, let's give maybe around 50 yards, I guess, 50. Yeah, here. So this place here. Now there's also another problem here. You can see that the color is blending over this part here. Yeah, let's maybe choose 250. Okay, that's okay. We'll solve that. We'll try to figure it out. For now, let's just give it as black, I guess. Gray or whatever. Black here. We'll try and maybe add a background image to it. So animate position, bottom 50. Now I want to align it to the right here. So it's aligned to the right. Here is the right. Now maybe I'll make it around 100. Maybe 100 and maybe around 70. 70, nope, maybe around 60, maybe 50. Bottom maybe around 30. Yeah, so that looks good enough. Okay, so here we have this and this. Now let's give this as const. Okay, now again it's getting a little bit cluttered. Let's just move this to its own function. Move this to its own function as an extract widget. So this will give render button. Singular. I run the button here itself. Okay, where's that final? No, no. Let's just minimize this. Where's the button? Oh, here, run the button. Okay. Okay, so now what we need to do is when we click on this button here, it should animate this info container from right to left or left to right. Now I have this unpressed listener here. What I could do is I could create a function here or and then just pass the callback here itself. Okay. Okay, in order to do that, let me just make sure it works. Okay, before I export this to its own function, I've just undo everything. It's now back to the stack. Let's just create a function which will actually do that, which will toggle this animation here. So in order to do that, we need to create another function here called, this will be void because it's not returning anything. So toggle info visibility. Visibility. Okay. This function. It doesn't take any parameters. So what it does is it just now will have a set state. And inside the set state will have this is info equal to this is info visible. And then this one. So what is this portion of the code doing actually? Oh, it's been 1 hour, eh? Okay. So sorry, thank you, Krishna 45. So I guess guys, shall I continue? Shall I move forward or shall I end the session again here in this part? So thumbs up again if you want to continue, or thumbs down if you want to end the session. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, then let's just move on again to the toggle visibility. So again, what we have here is this boolean here. It's got to toggle this, right? So now, if you look at this value here right now, the value is false. So if we give this bang operator here, or this not operator, what does is converts this to true. So vice versa, if this is true, it converts this to false and stores inside the same variable itself. If this is false, it converts to true and stores it here itself. So you're just toggling it from true to false, false to true. So now I need to add this to the button itself, right? So here itself. So I just remove that and paste it here. Now let's just console this log first. Let's just console this console log. Yeah? Oh, sorry, I mean, let's just print this out, print the value. Okay. Let's re-render this again. Sorry, I forgot the. Okay, now if I click on this, what happens? You can see it's toggling from true to false, false to true. Yeah. So essentially, it's very simple. It just toggles between true and false, false and true. Now, how are we going to use this value to generate our animations, to create animations? So now we have this is visible this value. What we can do is we can pass it to the render info container. Oh, sorry, there's a typo here. Let me just remove that. Info actually, and here it's info container. Okay. So we need to pass this value here. Is visible, and we need to create another argument here called a bool. This again same thing here, info visible. Now what we can do is we can here inside this left, if you look here at left, we can store that in a variable actually, so it becomes much easier, and we can use a ternary operator for that. So let's have maybe this will be a double. Or what does it take? What does bottom take? What does left take? It takes double here. So double left equal to this part here. So for example, if this info is visible, then I place the container in the middle of the screen. Right. Otherwise, what I do is I move the container to the right side, so the container becomes hidden. So in order to do that, I need to minus the width of the, so this container here, I make it as negative value. I give it as a negative value. Just see here. Position. Yeah. So I can just do maybe I can just do size that width for that matter. Once here, use console final variables initialized. That's okay. The value local variable f is in use. Okay. Just render again. What's happening here? Why is this not working? Oh, it's left here. Yeah. Okay, so now, okay, let's just use this value. Let's just use our value now here inside left. Okay. So now you can see that it's has moved towards the left side. So if I click, yeah. Now you can see that animation is being performed here. How does this work is, again, here, this part here. So we have our button. On press, what does is it calls this function called toggle info visibility. So this one here. So what toggle info visibility does is it just toggles this Boolean value from true to false and false to true. So initially, your value will always be false. And now if I click on this button here, it will change this to true and store it here. And now because you're using set state, it will re-render this UI again. So it'll re-render all of these again. So right from image to render info container to animate position. Okay. Okay. So what it'll do is it'll render again this animated position along with your render info container. So it'll pass this new value now. The new value is true, right? So it'll pass to this function here itself. So now this becomes true. I'll check here left. If it's true, you place the container in the middle of the screen. Otherwise, you move it to the background. So if you give your negative size dot width, so for example, if this is 500, then minus 500 is where? It's around here, right? It's minus here. So it starts from 0. If you know, if you remember how number system works, is 0 and then positive number, 0, negative number, right? So minus 500 is here. So it'll place that container around here itself. Yeah. So but when it's true, it'll move that container from the minus 500 to the center position. Okay. So I guess before we move forward, I just want to make an announcement that we are going to be hosting the MacDev Connect for this year. So yes, we had an event last year which was a phenomenal success and was quite fun. So for this year, I think we're gonna host it in the month of October or November, Kushan? Which month is it? Sorry. It's on October, sorry. So if any of you are interested, you could maybe build apps or build websites and you could showcase your products or your projects or skills during that day. And if you need any help in mentoring or you need guidance, you can always contact us here at MacDev. We're there for you. We're there to help. And we can maybe help you fix issues or maybe get your product or projects completed before the deadline. So if you're interested, please reach out. Remember, we're hosting MacDev Connect again on October. So it's going to be quite fun. And I hope to see you all there again. So thank you. So let's go back to our code here. We're almost done. Okay. So now what I need to do now is I want the animation to play out when I click on the screen here. Because right now, if I navigate to the spot details, there's no info box, right? So I want it to automatically animate from left to right after a certain time. So what we can do is we can add a delay to that. So in order to add a delay, what we can do is inside our init state, we'll just create our init state function here. Inside our init state, we can use the future class. Sorry. So future dot delay, duration again, then milliseconds. Maybe I'll give it around again 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And now this will call a function. What is happening here, right? So future delayed, it takes two parameters. One is your duration, and the other is a function which it will call. So what it does is when your app runs, it will call this in its state. Okay, before rendering, it will actually call this in its state, and then it will run our future delay. So what future delay will do is after certain seconds, maybe after 1 second, it will call this function. It'll wait. Okay, if you give it maybe 2 seconds, or maybe, for example, if I give 10 seconds, It will trigger this code, but it will count 1, 2, 3 till 10, and then after 10 seconds, it'll execute whatever code you have inside this function. So what we need to do is we need just toggle this info visible to true here. Right. So if we so what it does is again, because our initial value is false, after 10 seconds it'll set it true and our animation will play out. So let's just render our app from scratch here. So if I click on this container, why is that working? Actually, it should work. Oh, there it's coming. What's coming after? Okay, let me place that maybe 500. Let's see, 500 milliseconds. Just take some time. Okay. It's not running the function actually. Oh, I forgot to use set state again. So even though it has updated the value to true here, because I'm not using set state, it's not rendering this function here again. So essentially, this render info container still has the false value here. It still has a false. It's not being passed a new value. So let's do that again. Let's add a set state, and then we place our value here inside it. Not working. So let's go back. Render. And there, now you can see it appears after 500 seconds, and you can always toggle it on and off from this button here itself. I guess I won't be. This is the end of the session. I have a little bit more styling concepts to do, but you can always view that in the code, which I will post later in the community. But for now, I guess I've reached the end. Any questions? Okay. So I guess no questions. So I guess, Kershawn, we can end this session regarding animations. Thank you so much for all those who attended. And again, please do keep in mind, we will have the MechDev Connect in October.